Mm. Yeah, we had a big glitch there, ladies and gentlemen, the Dave Emmons show, and I got Jeff Woolwine here, and we were just in the middle of talking. I hope he remembers where he left off.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't believe that there's going to be any, disclosure. The government's going to come out and tell us that these things are here because of their history, because we have to look into the history of these UFOs. And is it a good thing? No. History tells us, I mean, when you really look into, what's going on, the petroglyphs, all the evidence points to that, these things aren't very good for us. I mean, but there are other manuscripts, ancient scrolls that do talk how these beings has helped mankind out in the past,
Mm-hmm.
and so there are good ones, there are bad ones. But I believe the ones that we're dealing with here on South Mountain and also around the world is mostly not good ones. Okay. And so I think the new conspiracy now, because, for so many years, oh, they're filming flares. Oh, they're filming balloons, weather balloons. Oh, they're filming trash, this and that. The new conspiracy now is because everyone is seeing them, right? Everyone's seeing them now. So now they're gonna tell us, well, it's possible that these things are crafts. It's possible that this is some kind of technology. When they know, in fact, this is not technology that we're dealing with. No evidence. I'm sorry. I mean, crafts are all neat and wonderful and everything. And I'm waiting for the day to actually, but there's no evidence.
In your
There's no evidence of crafts.
in your opinion, where are they taking these people when they leave?
Right. That is a good question. So some of them got taken away, some of them didn't. They went back to Mexico. Where did they go? It's just very interesting. Like, I mean, in studying all this and studying the petroglyphs and and then going back and looking at some of these 3,000-year-old writings and manuscripts that talk about these beings, it tells us what these things are. It tells us that they got thrown down here to heaven. They say that Mount Hermon was the only mountain where these things got thrown, cast upon. But I believe that there was other mountains, South Mountain and other mountains around the world. These things ascended upon because they got kicked out of where they originally came from. And there's just so much evidence that, this is, biblical stuff. And I'm not talking about religion. Religion is out the door. But I'm looking at these manuscripts, and if you look at it as a history book of the world, it explains on what these things are. And so it's fascinating. We can read the manuscripts that was written, 3 to 4,000, even 7,000 years ago. And then we can go out on the petroglyphs and we can see the exact same story that these manuscripts are talking about. We're seeing the photographs of what these manuscripts are talking about.
Right.
It's talking about the giants. It's talking about the Nephilim. Okay, it's talking about all this stuff that we've already been reading that we've just been blowing off, right? But
Mm-hmm.
yet the Native Americans and the people that understand all this, they recognize what is going on here. And so it's, these aren't crafts, these are living creatures, living beings. And here's the secret: they're not from another planet. This is their world also. They've always been here. So, and when you look at it in this point of view, I mean, it all, kind of makes sense that this is their world also.
What now? I know a lot of people on like Ancient Aliens and all these other people that talk about now in Egypt and like the Native American Indians. When they saw something, they drew it, right? I
Right.
mean, they were drawing what they were seeing, and
Absolutely.
yeah, so that's what you believe in too, right?
Oh, sure. I mean, why? I mean, they're not out to try to sell a sci-fi book or a sci-fi movie. I mean, why would they do that, right? I mean, if they're going to draw a giant, that's telling us that they had a giant. They saw a giant. They're going to draw a snake above their heads. They're telling us that they saw a snake above their heads.
Right.
And it's for our generation, I believe. It's for generations, who understand this. Because now we're seeing them. We're seeing them now. So we have to learn from the first people who dealt with these things. We have to learn from the petroglyphs. We have to learn from history. And there's been a big cover up here because after Charles Holbrook passed away, because he was open to this, he told people about this. He told people about the gold tombs up there. And as a matter of fact, in his journals, he writes on how he was chasing people away from these gold tombs on South Mountain. So it got to be a big problem there. And so after when he passed away, they collected all his information and they put it in the Phoenix Library for 80 years. They didn't talk about this anymore. And they made South Mountain a government park. So you start going up there and start digging stuff up, you're going to go to prison for 20 years.
Really?
Right. So yeah, why make South Mountain a government park? Why not make the Superstitions a government park? Why not make, the White Tank Mountains a government park? Why not make Camelback Mountain a government park? Why pick on South Mountain? Is because South Mountain is a holy mountain. South Mountain holds the key to the Phoenix Lights. South Mountain has the tombs where this gold is. Now, another tradition on the Phoenix Lights and this gold is that the Phoenix Lights is actually they're waiting for the Mayans to come back and reclaim this. So this is supposed to happen again. All right, and the Hopis tell us that we're in the fourth world, we're about ready to enter the fifth. And each time each world changes, man screws up. So they got to start over again. And every time that man starts over again, these beings are here to help and guide mankind in their to live. But in history, it also leads to their downfall. So they're asking me, well, how come these things aren't making contact with us? Well, they're letting us know they're in the sky. They're letting us know that they're here. There is something here. How come they're not talking with us? Because it's not time yet. Okay, it is not time for these beings to come down and interact with man because we don't need them yet.
Right.
But if something was to happen, like a nuclear war or some kind of catastrophe, I can't even say that word. Something bad that happens, there's no food, there's no air to breathe, everything's contaminated, but they're going to see these lights in the sky. One's going to come down, he's going to shapeshift into a man, just like what the petroglyphs are talking about, and he's going to say, here, I'm here to help you. I can clean up the waters, I can clean up the air, I can give you food. I'm the one that you've been waiting for 3,000 years. And then it's going to start all over again. This is my opinion. This is the evidence that I'm looking at here. Like I said before, I started going down this one path, thinking spaceships and everything is cool, but all the evidence, the proof positive evidence, is hitting me in the face, and now I'm going down this other road. I'm doing a total 180 on this, and I'm like, wait a minute, this is heavy. This is some scary stuff. And it is. It's very scary stuff. This is the reason why they're keeping this a secret. They don't want you to know about this stuff. They're not going to tell you that these are supernatural entities, that these are creatures, that God is real and God threw these beings down, on our earth, and they live here among us too. I'm not gonna come out and admit that, So they're gonna make you believe, well, okay, it's very possible because everyone's seen them now. Okay, so there's spaceships and it's technology, and they're gonna get away with that until eventually, the whole public is gonna know that these things aren't fast at all.
Why do you think the government benefits from all that? Are they seeking technology from these beings, or what?
No, they're waiting. So so in 2004, I'm filming the Phoenix Lights. Okay, I'm in Mesa Community College, in Mesa on the east side of Phoenix. I'm filming these lights on the east side of South Mountain, and high up on the mountain, high up on these bleachers, I'm watching the lights, and I notice that these little white airplanes, are up high in the sky and they're circling. And when these lights appeared over a power plant, this power plant is bored down into the spotlight of South Mountain. We'll get into that here in a minute. Hopefully we've got time. So this power plant is down there, bored into the fault line. And these lights are right over that power plant. The lights are absorbing the energy, basically. And these airplanes are there, and they're coming in. They're coming in after these lights. And I'm filming all this. I'm documenting all this. I'm watching it. And at first I thought, oh, cool. Somebody else knows that these things are here. Someone is out there to investigate them, and like I'm doing, someone is here to watch them. But I soon realized what they were doing is they're not here to investigate them. They're not here to watch them or investigate them. They're there to get them out of the area. They were shooing them out of the area. And sometimes it worked. Sometimes those lights were there, and these airplanes would come right up on them, and then the lights would softly disappear. Airplanes would circle around in that area. Airplanes would go back up. Lights would come right back. It was a cat and mouse game the whole summer of 2004. So when I started, making the news, that's when it caught the attention of these airplanes. So now, not only are they watching the lights, they're watching me also. So in 2005, when I moved to the mountain, I am not only dealing with airplanes, I'm dealing with black helicopters now. And so these black helicopters are hanging around South Mountain. I documented this. I filmed this. You can see these helicopters in my book. And these helicopters are there watching for these things to come and go from South Mountain. Now, there is unconfirmed reports that in 1997, when the Phoenix Lights occurred, that the president at that time went underground. That they were afraid. Everybody was afraid. Why were they afraid? Why did they go underground? Well, I think because they're waiting. They know that eventually these things are going to come down and start over again, right? So they're watching me watch the lights, watch these things, but they're also waiting to see if I'm going to get taken away by these things, right? You see?
You were worried. You were worried too. You don't know
Yeah.
what the government or the military might do if you get too
Oh yeah,
close. You know.
I'm all over the net. I mean, I was doing this stuff way before Ancient Aliens. I was doing this stuff way before the UFO Hunter show.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I did the pilot for the UFO Hunter show and the Ancient Aliens TV series. I then later went on to do the UFO Hunter show in 2007. The episode is called Arizona Lights. Check it out. It's on Pluto on the Paranormal Channel. They've been doing a lot of reruns. So the UFO Hunter show, Arizona Lights. Check me out. I'm at the very end of the program, talking about the petroglyphs, talking about the rock art. And so I was doing this way before these shows was even a thought.
And I have to
And
remind people that you are boots on the ground. You go out and you
yes,
do this stuff.
yes,
You don't
I'm not
sit
just
back and
looking at.
research. Yeah, you go out and look at it. Yes.
Right. I am not just, taking hearsay evidence of a supposed mile wide V-shaped craft going over the city of Phoenix, going 8 miles an hour. Hundreds and thousands of people saw this, but nobody can videotape this. I don't go on hearsay. Okay. I go on what we can prove. I'm out there on the field. I'm doing the research. I'm checking out South Mountain. I've been back and forth on that mountain so many years. My knees are all broken because of it. Okay. I mean, it is that. So, and then I took it a step further. I called down a Native American to teach me the petroglyphs. This is not this isn't my interpretation. This is what this information has always been here with us. We just have to go out there and look for it and find it and understand it. Then I took it a step further and I went to the library, the Phoenix Downtown Library, and asked and tried to figure out what they had to do with it. And I accidentally stumbled across this folder in the type of government file sections in the Phoenix Library, where it talked about, where I opened up the folder and there's Charles Holbrook. Now, a year before this, right, I'm finding tombs, I'm finding altars, I'm finding evidence of Mayans, I'm finding evidence of giants, I'm seeing petroglyphs of giants, all of this stuff. I'm finding altars, I'm finding all this stuff, right, that the archaeologist is not talking about. And yes, I bought his book. And a matter of fact, I actually brought the city archaeologist, out on a news story with me to talk about the rock art. And that didn't go very well, because he's not going to admit that there's altars.
I got to stop you. You mentioned giants, and you mentioned it in your books and in my notes here. What were the giants? Were they the Nephilim of old?
Oh yeah, that's interesting. Some of the petroglyphs now, they like to call some of these glyphs lizard men, because it looks like they have a tail.
Mhm.
And they're huge. All right, they're huge compared to what a man would look like. I find evidence on how these somebody very big, very powerful, picked up these huge stones of rock and placed them in such a way, and teeter-totter. Check it out, it's in my book. They teeter-tottered these heavy boulders in such a way that during the equinox and the solstice, it would cast a shadow and it would make a design on the rock, on the petroglyphs. Some very sophisticated stuff. And I found evidence of huge, massive boulders or stone cut bricks, like we see in Egypt, made out of a huge wall on South Mountain. Okay, so there's evidence that somebody big, very big, very powerful was here. And was it, I mean, the scriptures say that, the giants came from these spirits taking the daughters of man and born children with them. And that's forth this came giants. But I think some of these creatures out here are giants themselves. There's a depiction of a flying serpent that must be 2 miles long, covering half of South Mountain. So yeah, these things are huge. And so yeah.
Yeah, a lot of strange things go on in this world. I wrote a book about supernatural, just turned it over to the publisher, and I studied a lot of stuff. And you mentioned biblical, and actually these giants were biblical in the Noah's days and the Nephilim, and they were something. Some of them were 25 feet tall, but the average Nephilim was something like 13 feet tall, I think.
Yeah, let's talk about these giants. So,
Yeah.
when Dave was talking to me about the giants, he was like, "Look on the east coast, on the east side over here," and he points to the Superstition Mountains. Now, the Superstition Mountains is very famous for the Lost Dutchman's gold mine, but according to the Native Americans, that mountain goes a lot deeper than just a German guy finding gold up there. It goes back to Noah's flood. And for instance, he's talking about that there was bloodthirsty giants that roamed this valley, and the water started to come. And the giants didn't want his people to drown. So he instructed all his people to stand up on this huge boulder. And when he did, he used his powers to raise this boulder up, but the waters kept coming. And he used his powers to raise this boulder up, but the waters kept coming. He used his powers so much now that this mountain or this boulder is as tall as the mountain, but the waters kept coming. And in his last bit of strength, because he didn't want his people to drown, he turned them all to stone. He immortalized them and they turned them to stone. Now, when this happened, that's when the waters flood. That's when the waters stopped. And to this day, you can look upon the Superstition Mountains and you can still see those giants still turned to stone, high up on hills, high up on the ridges. Sometimes, and some of them are down there on the bottom of the Superstition Mountain. And you can look upon the mountain and you can still see the watermark where the water had stopped.
Wow. Yeah.
Mhm.
So do they look like human beings, these stoned beings, or what?
Some of them kind of do, but they're very tall, stick looking formations that are coming up out of the mountain there. It's in my book if you want to like see what I'm talking about. So you can
I like,
actually see,
yeah.
yeah, you can actually see on, it looks like these big giants were turned to stone up there. Matter of fact, Camelback Mountain is great. There's a giant turned to stone there, and right there in front of Skull Rock, and that's really cool. So that's in my book also.
You
So
got
let's
some
talk about
cool.
South
Yeah.
Mountain.
Okay.
Why have these lights been attracted to South Mountain for thousands of years? And not only South Mountain, but also other mountains around the world. The Native Americans, they tell us that they're going down into the underworld. Now, on a scientific analysis on what they're really doing is they're going down into that fault line, into that energy source. And this seems to be the same case all over the planet on where to see these UFOs is because of these fault lines, these ley lines, these energy lines. And I learned watching what was going on for many, many years, I learned that it was a pattern. Like the first year I watched, I noticed that they were here on certain months, and then other months there were maybe one, maybe two, and then the other months they came back, they were heavy, and then they were kind of gone, maybe one, maybe two, and then the next month it was very heavy, and this coincided with the equinox and the solstice, the changing of the sun. When the sun would get into the right position of these energy lines, it opened up a doorway. It caused a fusion effect, and it attracted these beings to the South Mountain. And when the sun moves, when the seasons change, now these beings aren't on South Mountain anymore. They're over there in Florida. They're over there in Paris. They're over there in Jerusalem. They're over there in Japan. The sun has moved. It's over a different ley line. And then when the seasons change, they're back over here now. That's when the South Mountains started to become active again. And it was a pattern here. And the Holocaust knew this also because they erected these huge stone boulders and put spirals on these boulders. When the equinox and the solstice casts a shadow on these spirals, it would cut a shadow and pierce that spiral. And this, as the sun would move to the sky, the
Another little
so
quick glitch. That's Zoom for you, people.
yeah.
But
So yeah, that's
well,
basically what is going on here. This is why South Mountain is a hotspot for these Phoenix lights, if you will, for these UFOs, is because of the energy that's down below it. And remember, I mentioned earlier that there's a power plant on the east side. Those of you who want to investigate this, there's a power plant on the east side of South Mountain on Ray Road. Check it out. Look at my book. These lights are right over that power plant. When you look at my book, I show you where the power plant lights are, and these Phoenix lights are right over that power plant in 2004.
Wow. Now the Phoenix lights back in 1997, was that a craft or was that
You know, in my opinion, I mean, I'm an investigator. I'm looking for facts. I'm not looking for hearsay. Okay, I can only go on facts. All right, you can't go out on a limb and say something that you can't prove. And that's something that, you know, my research can prove. I can prove everything that I've been talking about here. And when it comes to the 1997 Phoenix Lights incident, uh, I don't see any evidence of anything going over the city of Phoenix. Now, there were sky watchers out there. Why do we have what really happened that night? What happened that night? There was a string of lights on the west side of South Mountain. That was it. Did they move across the city? No. They simply did an arc, not a V formation. They did an arc. They were out there on the west side. Then they simply disappeared. And so it went from a handful of people seeing the lights to thousands and thousands of people seeing the lights, right? It just got blown way out of proportion. And in my opinion, in studying what was going on here, you know, it's like being back in the third grade. You know, Johnny fell off the swing set and he skinned his knee. But by the time it goes around the whole school, by the end of the day, Johnny's in the hospital. He's going to lose his leg. He might even lose his life. You know, oh my God, it just got blown way out of proportion, right?
Yeah.
And it just kept getting deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And that's what we're at now today.
Okay, your closing seconds, Jeff, your closing seconds.
Okay.
Yeah, let's close this out.
Okay, yeah, find me on find me on Facebook, Jeff Woolwine, Petroglyphs in the Sky. Check out my book, The Covered Up History of Phoenix, Arizona, out there on Amazon and Kindle. Follow me on my Facebook page and YouTube channel, The Phoenix Lights, Petroglyphs in the Sky. And thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and sorry about all the glitches on Zoom. This is a paid subscription, and I expect the best out of it, but I'm not getting it. This has been a Dave Emmons show. Jeff Woolwine from Arizona. Fascinating stuff. I'll have to have him back on again. I've had him before, so I always enjoy his company on the air. Thank you very much, everybody, for taking an interest, and have a good evening. Bye-bye.